go. I was too busy digging up the results from GB Under-18s. Let's get rid of that. Click all the various buttons. It's a really awkward bit. Can't find good music to kind of do in the background of the stream. I should really look at that for one of these days, but I think it would just kind of distract from everything. Button. Oh. Hey, there we go. Yes, I suddenly realised what the time was because I was digging up the GB Women's Under-18s scores, which was great when I was trying to start on time. But either way, hello. Folk watching on catch up, we're nice and early, so I think if you're watching on catch up, the secret phrase this week, if you're watching on catch up, secret phrase stick in the chat, in the comments down below if you're watching on catch up, is bobble hat. Bobble hat. That's what you stick in the comments if you're watching on catch up. That way we know. But yeah, folk are rattling their way in. Do keep answering the warm-up question, of course, in honour of Chelmsford doing an absolute madness and having the ridiculousness of winning 6-0 after overtime. Best comeback you've ever seen with your own two eyes. Folk rattling in. Dylan's here. I see Charlotte. Jonathan's here. Jamie's here. Yes, that one. Famous for Boy Chamberlain losing his mind. Graham Hamilton there from Hawks Talk. Good evening, sir. Like I said, we'll just let people rattle in. Do share the tweets obviously out. The bits and pieces are out. Do share them. Hit the retweet button and whatnot. Let's get as many people in as we possibly can do, because all the bits and pieces are live now. Obviously, a fair bit to talk about as well. As always, news on a Wednesday. News on a Wednesday, which is always fun. But yeah, a bit of a quiet Wednesday. Last Wednesday, everybody and their mother was putting bits and pieces out because the Macca Boys put out an episode. Slapshot Syndicate put their episode out, and they've said that they're delayed until Friday, which is obviously frustrating as it is, especially when they got themselves into a good little rhythm as well. Either way, I've just seen the time. Let's get on with it, shall we? Guys, gals, and the gender fluid and all beyond the binary. It is Wednesday night. It is 8 PM. And welcome back once again to the BOTW What's Current stream. My name is Anthony Russell, here to take you through the weird, wonderful and wacky world that is the National Ice Hockey League structure. Here in Great Britain, we focus on the National Division. That is our bread and butter. That is our home port. But of course, we're here to talk about anything, everything from the National Ice Hockey League structure. That means the National, as well as Division 1 and Division 2 in the north and in the south. And then we'll have a look at anything and everything, everywhere else in between. Plenty to chat about this evening. Belfast are in Guildford tonight. We'll keep an eye on the result there. Of course, we'll touch on any WNIHL results, thanks to the wonders of Andrew Day. And then we will, of course, here to talk about the National Ice Hockey League here in Great Britain. A full weekend's worth of National Division stuff to talk about. Games on 3 days across the weekend. Cup semi-final drama out of our eyeballs across Divisions 1 and Division 2. And of course, a few league games in the North thrown into the bargain as well. And let's say the other bit of news, of course, is that there's been there has been a pretty, a move of substance in the National Division as well. But we'll talk about that momentarily, because of course we do need to talk about the fact that we've got to go through all of our usual bits and pieces, our bit of housekeeping, whether old or new. If you're new, listen in. If you're an old viewer, then just hum along. You'll know the words by now. Bannersonthewall.wordpress.com, your number one source for all things related to the NIHL. Big thank you, of course, to everybody. Of course, for those of you not familiar, it is Wednesday, the 22nd of January, last Thursday night. The 1000th piece to be published on Banners on the Wall came out. A piece I did called Grand Ideas. A couple of crazy ideas I had that we could use to improve British hockey. Of course, some people didn't like it. Dave Sims didn't like it, but that probably means I had a good idea somewhere in there amongst it. But lots of interesting feedback from that as well. Please do go check it out. Like I say, it's I think it's something like 5,047 days between the first piece ever being published on BOTW and the 1000th piece being published on BOTW. So pretty crazy to think that I've been doing that for this long, and kind of other people have written bits and pieces for the website. Of course, Andrew, we know, wrote our WNHL primer. We've had Doug Clarkson. Do you remember Doug Clarkson wrote on BOTW? That was pretty crazy. But lots of stuff there. And of course, a piece came out today. It came out a bit later than I was intending to, just because of life. Because it was the latest in our Banners on the Road series, where I go on my weird and winding journey through British hockey. And of course, last Saturday night I had the honour of joining Joe Scutts up in the commentary box at the hangar for the Berkshire Bees and the Telford Tigers. So if you want a nice in-depth look at that and some insight as to what it means to kind of commentate in Slough, because Slough's a really unique space from a commentary perspective, please do go check that out. And of course, well, one of the reasons, the main reason actually, why this week's Banners on the Road was because of the other big series that is put together on Banners on the Wall, which is Hockey Stories. New Hockey Stories out next Tuesday night. We have a new piece coming out for you there. It is a video interview, but it is a new one, and one that certainly I felt like I didn't know enough about a topic, so I went away and found out about a particular topic with an absolute expert on it. But Hockey Stories is our long-form piece of content. Some pieces are written, some pieces are audio-visual, but either way, you get an in-depth look at a particular topic in touching on the world of hockey. We go from the 19th century to the present day, behind the Iron Curtain, into war, and beyond. Chats, discussions with people doing all kinds of things across the world of ice hockey, whether it's setting up a brand new college program in the United States, to making hockey content, to retiring, to stories people like IHUK official Andrew Jarvie, who learned how to play ice hockey playing with a bunch of pensioners who can't actually play a game because of their insurance. Plenty of bits and pieces going on there, but the old BOTW podcast back catalogue, as well as our free-to-download game, Dice Hockey, all of that is over on the website, bannersonthewall.wordpress.com. The other thing, of course, is we are live every Wednesday night throughout the British hockey season, unless I have something else, unless something comes up, or I poison myself again by mistake, because that's already happened this season. But either way, we are here Wednesday nights, 8 PM on our YouTube channel, which means all of the usual YouTube gubbins. Go down below, subscribe to the channel, like the video, share the video, see if we can try and get ourselves towards 500 subscribers by the end of 24-25. That'd be awesome. And down in the description, of course, is the links to all of our social media: Twitter, Facebook, Blue Sky. You can get the link, of course, to 3D Lee, who printed the fantastic 3D signs that we have here on the hockey shelf behind me. And if you go to, there's a Linktree link as well, so you can go pick up all of our bits and pieces from there. And of course, the link to our virtual busking hat over at buymeacoffee.com/BOTW. If you fancy chucking a few quid into the hat to keep the lights on the wheel spinning, be massively appreciated. But either way, the other thing, of course, is because we are live on Wednesday nights here on YouTube, which means you get the chat. Questions, comments, thoughts, feelings, anything you want to chuck in as we talk our way through British hockey, please do feel free to join in. This isn't a monologue, it's a discussion with you guys, but if you are sticking something in the chat, please do remember the golden rule here at BOTW, DBAD. Don't be a dick. Be respectful of other people's thoughts and feelings, and we will all have a wonderful time. And Andrew has excelled himself. He usually waits to the end, but he's already jumped in because we wanted to talk about it. The GB Women's Under-18s in Division 2A World Championship action, and they are 2-4-2 over in Riga. A 3-1 win over Kazakhstan and a 3-0 shutout win over the Netherlands has set GB off and running in the best possible way. As you can see, Andrew's put the fixtures in the chat, as you can see. So tomorrow, GB back in action against New Zealand. Saturday, they get the hosts, Latvia. And then Sunday, they take on the team that they beat in pre-tournament warm-up action, Chinese Taipei. Taiwan. It's Taiwan. They have to have a funny name, because otherwise China get a bit narky about it. Chinese Taipei is Taiwan. Personally, I'm working at home tomorrow, so I'm going to try and make sure I can watch a bit of that game against New Zealand, because I do like watching my Antipodean hockey from down under. But that game on Saturday against the hosts, huge implications there for GB's under-18 women, looking as they are to push towards promotion up to 1B. But either way, we send all of our best to all of those fantastic young ladies. Coach Sean Alderson, I know, has been interviewed today by Ice Hockey UK's media folk, and they're obviously feeling very positive about the remainder of the tournament to come. Just having a look back here as we've got at some of the things that people have said in terms of comebacks. So Jamie, MK resident MK fan, he's talked about the MK Lightning coming from 6-2 down against Leeds back in November of 2022 to beat the Knights 7-6 after overtime. Dylan didn't venture one. He says most comebacks he's seen this season have been against the Lions. That sounds like a Lions skill issue to me. Carol Hunter from the Billingham Stars Starcast. Sting 8, Stars 9. Stars came back from 8-1 down in the final period to win in overtime, which sounds pretty crackers. Thanks to Charlotte for chucking that in the chat there. Belfast currently leading by 2-1 in the lone Elite League game tonight in the Spectrum. Thomas Graham, Swindon fan. Occasionally you'll see him pop up in stream commentary here and there. Didn't complete the comeback as they lost the shootout, but Bracknell coming from 8-1 down to 8-all in the space of about 5 third period minutes. 7 goals on 9 shots, I believe, was quite something. Pretty impressive. I think for me, I think probably the best one I've seen with my own 2 eyes was the Bison being 5-1 down after 40 minutes against Romford. Sorry, Romford. And then we had I think what Bison fans who were there at the time will know is the Richard Bordowski game, the birth of the Miracle Man, where he had a 4-goal performance. Doesn't score the game-tying goal. Alex Sanford actually scored the game-tying goal inside the last minute. And then Bordowski already on a hat-trick, scored the overtime winner because there was nobody else who was going to do that. But I thought that was a pretty impressive comeback, like I say. And then a couple of years later, they did it to Romford again, except it wasn't quite as drastic this time. Romford were already 4-1 up after 40 minutes on that particular occasion. But those were some pretty impressive comebacks. Less so of a comeback and more of a moving on. Richard Hartman, who signed the son of the Edinburgh Capitals fan favourite, of course, joined MK. And hasn't really seen much ice time at all. Unfortunately, sort of falling a bit foul of the fact that MK had a bunch of players, including Sean Norris, fall into their lap. Hartman, spending a lot of time being a healthy scratch, has now moved on from the Lightning, and he's joined up with the Peterborough Phantoms for the rest of 24-25. And actually, I think a few people said when he signed, and I think I said it as well, he looked much more like a Slava signing than a Tim Wallace signing. And not unreasonably, he's made his way to the other side of that local rivalry. And it's a place where where young players, Slava, gives players a chance. Whatever you think of the style, he lets players play, and that's probably a really good result for Hartman, as he'll obviously get some opportunities there. And another dual national file to be filed under Peterborough Phantoms players. Ben Hyde has joined the chat. I can see there from Zero Pucks Given. Actually, if you want some podcast crossovers, Ben was on this week's episode of the Billingham Starcast with Craig, Carroll, and Jono. Do go check that out. A little bit of a North 1, South 1 kind of collision-ish kind of thing. But that was really interesting. I listened to that in the office at work today. Really enjoyed that. We've got double scores in the chat here. As Andrew's given us, Charlotte's given us the score, and Andrew's given us the scorers. Is that Challenge Cup play-in game for the semi-finals? The Nottingham Panthers leading the Glasgow Clan by 2-0. 2 goals in the space of just about 40 seconds there. The captain Sam Hare on the power play, and Cooper Zetch with the other goal to have the Panthers in the lead so far. Various bits and pieces. There's obviously been a pretty busy weekend across all the divisions. Like I say, GBs, under 18s are rocking and rolling. I see as well that it looks like the Panthers have also had a goal disallowed for somebody kicking the puck in, as I've literally just opened that. But lots of other bits and pieces going on. There's been news out of North One as well. For those folk who are fans of both D-Side and Widnes, the game scheduled for the 22nd of March in North Wales has been rescheduled and will now be played on Saturday, the 22nd of February. So the game between D-Side and Widnes on the 22nd of March will now be Saturday, 22nd of February at the D-Side Leisure Centre. Face-off will be 5:15 p.m. Which is interesting because Widnes have said it's been moved from this date, and D-Side have said it's an outstanding home fixture confirmed. So I'm not quite sure who's right on that particular one. Either way, that game's going to be happening in February instead of March, because of course People's Cup campaigns have come to an end, and we will talk about the fact that obviously that Cup final put in one of the divisions has already had its ticket bits and pieces announced. But if you don't know, we won't spoil the party just yet. I'm just wondering whether there's any other immediate kind of big bits of news. Lots of player movement in some of the lower divisions. Lots of guys sort of doing a bit of rotation around North One. Lots of names that you might remember re-popping up again on on rosters, and we'll talk about that as we go through some bits during the thing. But I think what we'll do is we will go and we will get up bits and pieces from the National Division and do our focus as we like to do. He says, desperately hoping this is all going to load. There we go. That's all right. But then, like I said, last weekend, plenty of hockey if you are a fan of the National Division, because it all started. It was the Yorkshire Derby under the Friday night lights, and where the night started the weekend, just behind the MK Lightning. They needed some big results, and they started off in fine fashion. The Steel Dogs did put themselves in the lead in the second period. Tate Shudra converting off a pass from Morgan Clark-Pizzo to put the Dogs 1-0 up in the castle. But after that, Leeds did a Leeds. Finn Braden, Noah McMullin, Matt Barron with 2 goals, and then another from Braden before Jordan Boyser finished things off at in the closing stages. And the Knights pick up a 6-1 victory at home against Sheffield to claim a little bit of Yorkshire bragging rights. That then takes us into last Saturday in the National Division, and a big win on the road. Another head scratcher for the fourth horse. Hull dropped the home decision 4-3 to the Peterborough Phantoms, and as always, we know that Peterborough are always in the mood for playing spoiler, no matter where they go. But it is but Peterborough as well. 4-3. They were 4-2 up early in the early stages of the third period before Hull made it interesting as time dragged on. But the Phantoms able on the road to hold on and get the point. Emil Svek and 2 goals from Bobby Chamberlain for the host. Jarvis Hunt, Austin Mitchell-King, Cam Huff and Duncan Spears ending up with the game winner for Slava Kulikov's side. And then, well, people have... MK fans are sometimes a little bit hair trigger when they talk about the wheels coming off, but this was definitely a bad night for the Leeds Knights as they lose the Nel Clasico. And they don't just lose the Nel Clasico, but one of the form teams at the moment with one of the form players in the division, the Swindon Wildcats, go the distance. They win by 5-1 against Leeds. 2 goals from Jake Bricknell, as well as goals from Ryan Wells, Glenn Billing and Ed Bradley doing the damage. Bricknell is on something ridiculous, like he's scored at least 2 points a game in the last, I can't remember how many games off the top of my head. Jack McCarthy from the Maccas Talk Hockey did give me the stat, and I've completely forgotten it off the top of my head. But either way, Bricknell, who started the season okay, has ratcheted up his point scoring form in the last couple of weeks and is starting to really sniff around. If not the top point scorer in the division, he seems to want that top goal scorer prize come the end of 24-25. But you think that Swindon fans would trade it all in if they can bring some silverware back to the link. Then there's the game I was at, the Bees dropping the 4-1 home decision to the Telford Tigers. Massively frustrating if you're a Bees fan when you consider that the Bees came into this one off a 2-game winning streak, winning back-to-back games at home by 4-2 against Leeds and then MK. And then in this game, they just looked a bit mentally spent. If you want the in-depth view from my perspective, you can go check that out over at bannersonthewall.wordpress.com. A fascinating game. If you're a fan of either side, you might have sat there thinking to yourself that it maybe wasn't the greatest game of hockey ever, but certainly as a neutral, found it pretty interesting. 2 goals from Eric Henderson, a goal on his return from injury for David Thompson, and a goal from Devon Skaleski. Definitely check out the highlights from this one for that Skaleski goal. It's pretty tasty. The lone goal of the night for the Bees coming from Josh Martin, his first goal in Bees colours since returning from his time at Streatham and his lengthy suspension. And something about MK not winning away from home. Make all the jokes you want here, but the Dogs recover from their battering at the hands of the Knights to put a spanner in the works of Tim Wallace and the Lightning. 2 goals from, a hat-trick from Ivan Björklund-Nordstrom and a goal from Sam Tremblay doing the damage for the Dogs. Martin Susters and Jordan Cowney on the board for the Lightning, who again will be left ruining a missed chance to do, especially given that Leeds lost on Saturday night as well. And then Solway went and battered Bristol up at the Shark Tank. You feel like at times that Solway have kind of done a lot of nicking of results against teams. They've not really put too many teams to the sword per se. But Bristol made that long journey up from the southwest of England all the way up to the southwest of Scotland, and were thoroughly given a lesson. Sean Morris with the lone goal for the Pitbulls in this one. Nolan Gardner with 2. John Dunbar with 2, and as well as goals from Mason Alderson, Olivier Arsenault, Scott Henderson on the power play, and a goal from Kel Beattie. But a pretty good, convincing win for Martin Grubb's team as they look to cement their place in the playoffs for the first time. That then takes us into Sunday, and well, the Puppy Bowls threw up something of a little bit of a surprise. The third game in 3 days for the Dogs, but they do manage to squeak out a win, and they had to come back. Did Sheffield as well? They were 2-1 up, and then 3-2 down, and then managed to play a goalless third period between these two sides before everything went a whole distance. Walker Summer with 2 goals in regulation, along with a goal from Ivan Björklund-Nordstrom. The goals for the Pitbulls in regulation come from Reece Smetham, Mason Lipsey, and a first goal in Bristol Pitbulls colours for their new import forward, Mitch BLUESKY, who has joined the side as the replacement for Nick Price. It goes all the way through the shootout, and Walker Summer, one of the big point scorers in this division, gets the game winner in the extras. But Pitbulls, after getting smacked around in Dumfries, do at least head home with a point out of the weekend. The Bees, well, having won back-to-back games 4-2, they then lose back-to-back games 4-1. The Knights get a measure of revenge and get themselves back on the horse after their kicking they got from Swindon on Saturday night. Ollie Endicott, Noah McMullen, Kieran Brown and Finn Braden with the goals for Ryan Aldridge's side. A lone goal in this one for the Bees from Dom Gabai. The Bees 1-0 up inside 10 minutes before the Knights did what the Knights do and turned it on. After a frustrating home loss, well, it's now 5 defeats on the bounce. Yes, the Raiders have got 1 point out of that, but the form for the Raiders is starting to slip as the cup final looms into sharp focus. 6-2 Hull win in the end. Sean Miller and TJ Anderson for the host. They've obviously got their new import, Reed Morrison, who's come in. Unsure whether he's for the rest of the season or whether he's just short-term cover. We do know that Adam Lashram has unfortunately picked up yet another injury. For the Seahawks, the captain doing the business. A hat-trick from Bobby Chamberlain for Matty Davies' side in this one. Johnny Corneal, Lee Bonner and Jason Hewitt with the other goals for Hull. And a 4-point weekend again for the Peterborough Phantoms. Having stolen the points at Hull, they then head home, and Solway were put to the sword. A 2-point weekend for the Sharks. Pretty okay for them in the playoff race, given results around them, but they will probably have been hoping for something more out of this one. Hat-trick from Cam Huff and a goal from Luke Ferrara for the Phantoms. The lone goal for the Sharks coming from Nolan Gardner, because it's always Nolan Gardner. And then the last game of the weekend, a big one for the Wildcats as they get the 4-point weekend, given the fact that Leeds and MK lost around them. Getting 4 points was huge for the Wildcats as they, well, the discussions there about Hull. Are Hull the 4th horse? Swindon are definitely the 3rd in the title race. Not such a good night for the Telford Tigers, having ground out a result in Berkshire. They head home and they just are no match for Swindon in this one. 7-2 win for Aaron Nell's side, and quite a big one in a lot of ways, because goals from across the lineup, 7 goals from 6 different goal scorers, he says, putting his teeth back in. Scott McKenzie and Harry Ferguson for the hosts. 2 goals from Tomasz Malazinski, as well as goals from Ed Bradley, Jake Bricknell, Dylan Lipsey, Chris Jones and Balint Pokodzi for Aaron Nell's side. Which means we then can have a look in depth at the table, and it's making some pretty nervous reading as the top 3 really are pulling away. I'm sorry to say Hull, but if they are the 4th horse, they're a good length and a half behind in this one. The Knights, top of the table again, 55 points from 36 games, level on games played with the Lightning, who are 1 point behind. Swindon have played 37 games and have 54 points, meaning they have played a game more. But they can, of course, know that Leeds and MK will be in a position to trip over. We've seen it happen already this season. It's a random game here, and suddenly the Wildcats are level on games played and within touching distance. The gap between Swindon and Hull, MK Swindon and Hull is 10 points. The Seahawks in 4th place on 44 points, which is a lovely bit of symmetry if nothing else. That 4-point weekend for the Phantoms has them locked into 5th and hot on Hull's tail. 43 points from 36 games to Slava Kulikov's side. The Steel Dogs on 42 points in 6th. The Raiders then are a little bit of a distance back, 7 points back on 35 from 36. And the Sharks are sitting pretty still on the inside looking out. 8th place for Solway, 32 from 36. They are 4 points clear of the Telford Tigers currently, who are in 9th with a game in hand. Bristol are on 27 from 38, and the Bees, after their 0 point weekend, 19 from 35. What that means then is we have a look at the upcoming fixtures for this weekend, and we have more Friday Night Lights. It was in the north last week and the south for this one. The Berkshire Bees welcome the Bristol Pitbulls in a massive game towards the bottom of the table. Wooden spoon implications, and both sides, of course, not giving up on the playoffs just yet. How will Mitch Walensky fare in his first visit to the hangar? Or can the Bees, after a tough weekend where they lacked offensive bite, can they bite back on the Pitbulls? And then Saturday, full dockets worth of games across here, as a few of the title chasers will go head to head as well. Leeds at home against Peterborough at the Castle. MK will look to get back to winning ways as they welcome Romford. The Solway welcome the Bees up to Dumfries. Could be an interesting one for the Bees, as both Marcel Balash and bench coach Ashley Tate have been sent to DOPS for abusive official penalties. Both potentially could miss this weekend. Swindon versus Hull. Now, I suppose technically third horse versus fourth horse, but it's an absolute must-win for the Seahawks in the title race. If they lose this one, they may well just have to refocus and look towards the playoffs. And then the final game on Saturday, and usually Telford at home on a Saturday. That's different. But either way, Cats and Dogs fighting in Shropshire. The Tigers and the Steel Dogs will meet at the Telford Ice Rink. And then Sunday, for the last bit of the weekend, Bristol versus MK, Hull versus Solway, Peterborough versus Leeds. That could be a really interesting one. Peterborough's form, as we know, has kind of lurched backwards and forwards, but they've been on a good run recently. So if they could throw an even bigger spanner into the title race, Romford take on Telford, and then more Dogs and Cats fighting as the Sheffield Steel Dogs will welcome the Swindon Wildcats. And there we go. That's the National Division so far. We've all the bits and pieces there. Big thanks, of course, as always, on the graphics to Max Van Mullum. He has been sorting us out across the season, and interesting to see. Quite a few interesting results in that one. What a wild weekend for Leeds by getting a sizable win at home against Sheffield on the Friday night, smacked about by Swindon on the Saturday night, and then grinding their way back to another victory against the Bees on the Sundays. MK losing, huge weekend for Swindon, getting 4 points as MK were only able to manage getting 2. And Leeds lost another game into the bargain. It's really starting to look pretty interesting towards the top of the table there. And then at the bottom, Solway getting 2 points was enough to kind of keep things as it was. And ultimately, if you're the Solway Sharks, if you're winning one game out of every 2, you're probably going to be in a really good position to make the playoffs. And then you have to wonder, what will that Solway Sharks team look like when you hit that postseason with those guys like Arsenault, like Dunbar, like Gardiner, who being North American are hardwired for that kind of hockey. And then as well, actually, a lot of people don't think about the fact that whilst it was at the division below, a lot of those Solway players are used to playing that kind of hard-nosed playoff hockey. Yes, the standard is obviously higher, but a lot of them will know what to do. And Jordan Marr, between the pipes for the Sharks, who won last year's playoffs as the backstop for Peterborough. George Norcliffe is obviously the other bit of news released by Stretton today. A lot of talk he will be heading back to the National Division, to either Romford or the Bees. My guesses would be on Romford, given that Norcliffe has already guested for the Raiders this season. So here as well from Jamie, a lot of chat about Swindon being the favourite for title, considering their slightly easier run-in. Leeds still have to go to MK, Peterborough and Sheffield twice. And I can see there Charlotte, who is a Wildcats fan. Having the easier running doesn't mean anything if we don't win those games. It's going to be tight towards the end. Whoever wins the title will have earned it. I'm still sticking with my prediction at the moment, which is I think Leeds will win it on the last night. Mostly just because I think there's something in my brain that says, one, I just like drama. And as anybody knows, from a BOTW perspective, I do love a good story. But out of the 3 teams in it, only one of them has done it at the moment. And yes, it somewhat is the easier answer, I think, to say, oh, well, of course, Leeds won last year, so they'll win again. But actually, MK don't have the best of records when it comes into the crunch. Swindon have not been in that position for quite some time, whereas a lot of this Knights roster know what it takes to win in this situation, and that's why I feel like they're edging this a little bit. How that can change is it will be in a multitude of ways. Leeds could win the cup finally, but could win the cup again, but could ultimately end up kind of gassing themselves out. It's a big emotional outlay to win and then celebrate afterwards as well. So there's potential, of course, for their form to maybe dip as a result. Of course, key injuries in places. What would happen, heaven forbid, if Sam Gospel got injured and Harrison Walker has to shoulder the load of being the starting netminder? Would he be able to do that? There's that question there. Swindon have a tendency to do a Swindon, and that is lose key games at bad moments. For me, there's still question marks about their defence. I know they won't like me saying that, but we've seen Swindon's tendency. They've lost silly games they should have won, both in Hull and in Sheffield, and it sometimes feels like they have a switch in their brains where everything kind of falls off. What happens if Bricknell's goal scoring run dries up? It's not been quite as good a year for Malazinski in terms of offensive output, but then again, he's also not needed to be quite as offensive when he's had somebody like Bricknell as well as Billing and others able to produce some of that offense as well. For MK, I still think a lot of this is in their heads, and of course, it sounds like a bit of a joke that MK don't win away from home, but they've got to win away from home. The Thunderdome is a really, really tough place to go, and that's all well and good. But ultimately, you have to win when you have to win, and half your games are played on the road. It's like the old adage about Solent, where people say, oh, Solent should win every game at home. But Solent are still hanging around at the top of South 1, despite playing on pads much bigger than theirs every other week. So they're okay on that front too. For MK, I think it's just that element of consistency for 60 minutes. And they can push. If they win that game against Leeds, they just have to put their heads down and just keep going. It may not even need to be pretty. And yes, MK are an offensive juggernaut when everything is rolling. But actually, you know what? A 3-1 win gets you as many points as a 9-1 win. It's all for that. And as Jamie's mentioned in the chat, 16th of February, Swindon versus MK. And they've got 5 games between the 2nd and the 16th. And that'll be a huge period of time for Tim Wallace's side. In terms of me, where am I this weekend? I am nowhere. I'm actually having a weekend off of hockey for family reasons, because for people who aren't aware, I have a wife, I have a son, and actually they've got their own interests and bits and pieces as well. So this coming Saturday, I am taking my son to see AFC Bournemouth versus Nottingham Forest, because as Bournemouth fans, we managed to get tickets for that one, so we figured, why not go watch apparently 2 of the best performing sides in Europe, which is a really weird thing to think about. And then on Sunday, my wife is a massive fan of the Formula 1. I'm taking her to the F1 exhibition in London. But what that means is next Tuesday night, like I said, a brand new hockey stories piece. And ultimately, sometimes you have to just borrow quotes from TV. The North remembers, is the old adage from Game of Thrones. But did we forget about the North? I'll let that one linger in your brain. You'll see when that comes out on Tuesday. But yes, a hockey-free weekend for me in the middle of the season to give the people who do the most in terms of backing me and my hobby and my love for this sport. I'm going to give them a weekend to do some of their favourite bits and pieces, and then the weekend after that, we'll get back to it. But plenty of bits and pieces to keep tabs on. And of course, we'll be back here next Wednesday night for the What's Current stream, because you lot need to tell me about all the hockey you saw at the weekend. And I'll probably be watching some on the telly at some point over the weekend too, but should be a lot of fun. Either way, National Division, what are we saying? So obviously, people here talking about MK, talking about Swindon. Like I said, I still don't think you can count out Leeds, because sometimes Leeds with a toughish looking run in, obviously. But if you're champions, that's what you want. You want your chin to be tested. You don't want to sit back and do nothing. Plenty to sink our teeth into. Swindon go to Leeds next Sunday too. That's a big one. Yeah. Should be there's lots of really, really interesting stuff going on in that one. Just having a quick check, see whether we've got any other news. Which at the moment all I can see is Klagenfurt beating Lebanya in the Ice League, but nothing immediately leaping out as well. Just have a quick look at the quickly pull the scores out of the Elite League. Who's actually scored for Guildford and Belfast in this one? He says clicking the buttons. Well, that's probably not going to help the Flames. I've just clicked in, and Daniel Tedesco getting a game misconduct for slew footing. Who scored? Who scored? Scott Conway and Kieran Long for the Giants. Matt Alvaro for the Flames. Kieran Long loves scoring against Guildford. He's done it for so long. On that front, now 2-1 I can see between Nottingham and Glasgow. Mitch Hurd with the goal to get the Clan back into that one. Yeah, Tedesco rejected for a slew foot. Such a fascinating player to watch, Tedesco. He just seems to... He's still very, very good. He clearly has the quality, but just this year, I do wonder whether he's just, not quite found his footing again, having come back to Guildford from Belfast. But yeah, strange one, that one. But obviously, that's a league fixture. A few more eyes will be on that Panthers Clan game because of the connotations with the Challenge Cup, and of course the league and the cup was something I suggested that we change in Grand Ideas. I still maintain that one of the you may not like everything that happens in the national division, but I still maintain that the cup format for British hockey, what the national division do, I think is vastly superior to what the Elite League tried to do. Elite League fans hate their cup format, and actually the National Division's way of going about it, I think, has just been really, really sensible. It's made the most of making fixtures mean something, not overpacking the schedule, which obviously, yes, the Elite League is fully professional compared to a semi-pro NIHL, but it's a pretty tough one in that sense. There'll be a lot of bits and pieces going on. I ventured during the summer with the Challenge Cup. I think it has to be a topic of discussion again for the Elite League. But certainly my suggestion is that actually the Elite League should just follow what the National Division do. Talent borrows, genius steals when it comes to the cup competition, and it works. There's no reason for the Elite League to play an extra massive round of games like that when ultimately all it does is just make the cup competition look a bit silly, especially when Group B of the Challenge Cup is always Belfast and friends. But yes, of course, Jamie has stuck it in there as well. Last weekend, of course, the start of EIH Pride Week, and this weekend will be the second part of that. All things considered, the people who know me know that that I'm a very, very big believer in the fact that sport and politics cannot be separated because nothing exists in a vacuum, and this is true whether it's today or during Pride Week or beyond any kind of week like that, because yes, it's good to remember and celebrate it, but it is true today and every other day as well. Hockey is your space. It does not matter what your gender identity is. It does not matter what your sexuality is. If you want to play hockey, play hockey. If you want to come watch hockey, watch hockey. This should be your place where you could do that. And how you identify and who you love is none of it when people talk, the whole thing sparked up about whether hockey is a family sport or not. And I still mean it now. Like, it's true in a bunch of different levels. Hockey is a bit like Doctor Who, and it kind of depends on where you come to it. Kids will love the big lights and the bright noises and the fancy sonic screwdrivers and hiding behind the sofa from the monsters. And the adults you'll have adults who will obsess over every detail, or some who just like watching it because it's a bit of a fun thing to watch. Ultimately, we all come to this sport that we love from different angles and different perspectives. Be respectful of where other people are coming from, because they don't owe you an explanation, but they do owe you respect for where you come from too. And ultimately, if your position is one, what they don't owe you is your ability to be intolerant. Tolerance does not mean tolerating the intolerant. That's a paradox. It doesn't matter. Be kind. Be respectful. Be empathetic of the fact that people will have struggled with who they are, and the one thing they shouldn't have to worry about is not having to hide who they are at the thing that we all love. Just roll up. That's the great thing about hockey. And spoiler alert, if you don't think there's people like that in hockey, boy, have you had your eyes shut in the most metaphorical way ever. Peace out. Solidarity to all my LGBTQIA plus folk wherever they may roam. I say at the beginning, guys, gals, gender fluid, and all beyond the binary. It's not a catchphrase. It's because whoever you are, you're welcome here. If you love the sport, then we're here for you too. So let's all rock and roll with that over the next weekend or so and beyond, because Pride and people being who they are isn't limited to the better part of like 9 days in January. That's not how that works. Cool. Anything anybody wants to chat about before we start talking about the absolute lunacy that was the South One Cup semi-finals? Because boy, did we have some goings on in the cup semi-finals weekend. Pretty impressive, all things considered. Quite a lot of the divisions, no other games apart from the cup semi-finals in Division 1 and Division 2. The only difference was in the North, a couple of fixtures that needed to be squeezed in, so they were squeezed in. But it was pretty cool in South 1 that nobody else played all weekend. It was only the cup semi-finals, and they had some absolute ding-dongs in the South, and they had some pretty heavy-duty ones in South 2, even if they probably might have gone how you expect. If you don't know who made the South Cup 2 final, and you watch the What's Current stream regularly, have a guess now as to who you think has made the final. Oh, finally back at uni. I've not missed North 1, have I? No, you have not, Dylan. We have not done. We've not done Division 1 and Division 2 yet. I've just been giving homophobes a bit of a kicking for being stupid. Either way, Jamie, you do you, my man. However you are on Saturday, you are who you are. You rock and roll. No other news immediately leaping out that I can see. So we will then click a few more buttons. So bear with me a second, folks, whilst we transition. There's the flash of it. Wee. And wee. So North 1, because we generally do North 1 first, and as Dylan's got back to uni, we may as well talk about it. In fact, we'll talk about the team that Dylan commentates for, the Nottingham Lions. They were on the big pad on Saturday, and Nottingham were 3-1 up and lost in this one. A massive frustration, but a huge win in terms of that race for the playoffs for the Widnes Wild. They have certainly done some retooling, including Dan Hyde returning to Widnes after time with the Solihull Barons. The Barons, of course, bringing in Zach Yokoyama, meaning Hyde as was released and is headed back up to Merseyside. But Tyler Summerton, Alex Rushby and Luke Birchnell had edged their way in front off that goal from Bailey Thompson. But then the Wild came racing back. Ben McClellan, Luke Alston, Dan Hyde, and then an empty net goal from Thompson. His 13th of the season for the Wild gives them the 3 points and a big regulation win as they look to sneak in and take 8th spot in North 1. Pretty impressive performance as well from Harry Campbell in net for the Wild. 51 saves on 54 shots. We then get into the Cup semi-finals in North 1, and it was the same as last year for the Billingham Stars and the Hull Jets. They met up at the Forum on Saturday night. Hull getting themselves into an early lead, 2-1 up at the end of the first period. Ian Brown, because it's usually Ian Brown, scoring for the Billingham Stars. But then Ethan Dainton and Devis Uranox, his first game in Hull Jets colours since signing from the Blackburn Hawks, having Hull 2-1 to the good. But then it's apologies there. Choked on something imaginary, but ultimately Billingham managed to get their feet under them and eventually turn the game around. Chris Sykes, Callum Wilkinson, then making it 3-2, and a second of the night for Sykes to make it 4-2 and 5-2 thanks to Ian Brown's second of the night, and the Stars put themselves in a good position heading into Sunday. Blackburn headed to D-side and they left everything in no doubt. An 8-3 win for the Hawks in this one over the D-side Dragons. A pretty disappointing home end of this tie for the Dragons, who have been pretty good offensively and not very good defensively at times. Goals in the for this one from the Dragons: Jakob Hayek and 2 from Jake Witkowski, which is who you'd expect to score in a situation like this. And then for the Hawks, 2 from Andy McKinney, 2 from Darragh Spaforth, and goals from Bobby Streetley, Adam Barnes, Josh Crawley, who of course has scored has scored for Telford and Blackburn this year, as well as Aaron Davies in this one. Matt Croyle, 8 goals and 42 shots will be a night he will want to forget. And the other league-only game on Saturday, the Leeds Knights taking advantage of the gaps to take on the Solihull Barons, but the Barons beat the Knights by 8 goals to 2. A tough night at the office for the Knights, especially given the fact that Widnes won on Saturday, and Solihull keeps trying to strengthen themselves in the running for the playoffs in this one. As you can see from there, 8-0 to Solihull by the beginning of the early in the third period, before Michael Danico and Owen Dell got the Knights on the board. Alex White with 2, a hat-trick for Dan Mulcahy, and goals from Sam Chandler, Corey Goodison, and a 4-point night. Zach Yokoyama going 1+3, returning to North 1 like he was never away, in a game that saw Nicholas Otterson not travel for the Barons. And then into Sunday, it started promisingly for Hull. They were a goal up early through Josh Eardley before the Billingham Stars said, absolutely no way, we're not doing this again. And the Stars power their way to the North 1 Cup final. They win the second leg by 8 goals to 1. It is a pretty comfortable 13-3 aggregate win for the Stars in this one. 2 goals for Conor McNulty, 2 for Michael Elder, and then goals from James Helens, Sean Galloway, Roland Grittans, and Lucas Dowdle to do the business for the Stars. A pretty tough night for Zach Brown, 8 goals on 39 shots. Mark Turnbull turns away 33 of 34. And then the other semi-final, Blackburn keeping the Dragons firmly at bay. Not quite the same scoreline, and the Dragons needed to score, but ultimately just couldn't muscle their way past the Hawks. 6-3 for the Blackburn win in the end, meaning the Blackburn managed to get themselves 14 goals over the course of the 2 games. Even then, still trying to find a way to do better than Billingham in that sense. Goals in this one for the Hawks, as we just scroll down there: 2 for Sam Warnock, goals for Adam Barnes, Darragh Spafforth, Jacob Lutwich, and Ethan Mayo. The Dragons get goals from Jakob Hayek, Jared Dickinson, and unsurprisingly, Jake Witkowski. Before we head to the last game of the evening, and it was an overtime win for the Nottingham Lions against the Leeds Knights. A game that maybe the Lions will have been a bit frustrated by, certainly from what I watched of it. It's a pretty solid performance by the Knights. They've really grown into the season, and whilst they maybe don't have the depth of some sides, they're starting to cause a little bit of bother, just in the same way that Widnes are. Leeds did take the lead inside the first period from Ollie Wag, but it was tied by Kieran Gibbs before to make it 1-0 at the end of the first. Leeds, though, taking the lead back. Edgar Svengis with the 2-1 goal just past the start of the 28th minute. But Captain Lee Kemp on the power play, tying things up for the Lions. It goes all the way into overtime, and then, well, there's life in the old dog yet. Alish Padalek with the overtime game winner, getting the Knights the 2-1 split of the points in this one. And then a pretty decent raft of fixtures as everybody returns back for league action this weekend in North 1. The Sheffield Scimitars welcome the Whitley Warriors at 4:40 p.m. at Sheffield before 2 7 o'clock face-offs on Saturday. Hull will look to get back on the horse and see if they can get a result at Hobbsmoat Road against the Solihull Barons. Widnes look to continue their good form. It might be a bit of a tough ask though. They face the Blackburn Hawks. Sunday, 5 p.m, up at Hillheads, it's Whitley and Solihull before things kick off at the Forum. 5:30 p.m. between the Billingham Stars and the Sheffield Scimitars. 6 p.m. at the Hawks' Nest for Blackburn and Leeds. And then 7:20 on the small pad at the NIC, the Nottingham Lions and the D-side Dragons. That defensively inconsistent Dragons side, will they be able to do something against Nottingham? The Lions and the Hawks fans having it out in the comments already. Start with my pain, yes. Harry Rushby's out for the rest of the season with a knee injury picked up in the Wild game, which is horrible to hear because he's had such a productive... Both Rushby boys have had a really productive season. Dan Norton is a little crazy for Leeds. He is, but all goalies are crazy. That's how that works. And then South 1. So, all things considered, I don't think people would necessarily expect this one. Saturday evening down in Gosport. Coming into this game, Solent and Slough had played all 4 of their league games against each other, and Slough had won all of them. Saturday night down in Gosport, the Jets win again in Gosport against the Solent Devils. The Devils were ahead pretty early in that first leg. Player coach Alex Murray scoring scoring just 102 seconds into the encounter before Slough took control. 2-1 up by the end of the first period thanks to Brandon Miles and Juhal Lindgren. The Devils tie it up in the second period through Liam Coleman before for a goal from Dylan Halicka, a short-handed goal. In fact, back-to-back short-handed goals in this one. Halicka's short-hander makes it 3-2 to Slough in a game that was marred by a little bit of confusion. The Slough Jets turning up with the wrong jerseys, turning up with their white jerseys despite being on the road for this one. The Devils changing into their road jerseys at the end of the first period after the teams both played in white for the first 20 minutes. Unsure as to why that one was allowed, but either way, a pretty intense game, all things considered. Aaron Taylor making 51 saves on the night. Remember, it's Gosport. The shot counts are generally high. And then at the Riverside, madness ensued as the Chieftains are blown away by Streatham, 6-1. Damon Porter haunting his former employers early on, 2-0 by the end of the first period thanks to Porter's goal as well as one from Ethan Lane, and then 3 goals in the second period. Ziggy Beasley, Aidan Doughty, and Beasley's second of the night, making it 5-0 before Ben Painter's effort made it 6-0 with just under 12 minutes to go. Grant Bartlett with the lone goal of the night for the host. If you've not seen the video of that third goal, the Ziggy Beasley one, it's Beasley from Watt, and believe me, it's all Ryan Watt, and it's pretty spectacular to watch. But then, for those of you who can count, it all happens at the Hangar on Sunday. The Devils, in their 6th attempt of the season to beat the Slough Jets, don't just beat the Slough Jets, but they beat the Slough Jets by enough. 4-2 in the Hangar, and the Devils win by 6-5 on aggregate. Liam Coleman with the only goal of the first period to get things level on aggregate, and then Lewis English's goal pushes the Jets back in front, but the Devils will not go away. Jack Peacock scoring early in the third, but then Juhal Lindgren scores again to put the Jets back on top on the evening. But then 2 goals in the space of 41 seconds on the power play from Liam Coleman put the Devils 4-2 up on the night, and ultimately the Devils hang on. You can see there from the penalty summary, Benny Lee Newman and Lewis English taking penalties at the same time, putting the Devils on a 5-on-3, and they do not miss. A huge result for the Devils. And like I said, 5 games, coming into that Sunday evening, they had 5 games against the Jets this season, had lost all 5, but the one they finally win, they win by enough. Another ridiculous performance from Aaron Taylor. He lets in 2 goals and 39 shots, meaning that he'd made something 37 and 51 makes it 80. What's that? 37 and 51, 81. So yeah, 88 saves on the weekend. That's pretty bonkers, all things considered. But that's the sort of net money you're going to need if you want to win championships at any level. And Slough, Matt Smith lets up 4 goals on 26 shots, and the Jets are left scratching their head again. And then there's this utter madness of a game. I have no idea. Explain it to me. In his coach's thoughts on 0 Pucks Given, Ben Painter talked about the complacency. And complacency is ultimately punished. Although, if you look at the times on the goals, there was no goal in this game until the 31:50 mark. Meaning, yes, Chelmsford not only tied the game to take it to overtime, they scored 5 goals in less than half an hour. Halden Barnes-Garner, Cam Bartlett, Sasha Maltsev, Mikey Power, and a second of the night from Cam Bartlett made it 5-0 on the night, 6-all on aggregate, and took the game to overtime, where Kieran Rayner was the hero. Sam Waller loses an edge, diving to try and stop the man, but ultimately too little, too late. Rayner finds the gap on Brad Shepherd, and the Chelmsford Chieftains don't just come back, they come all the way back and overturn a 5-goal deficit to set up at the South One Cup final between themselves and the Solent Devils. A huge this tie was a bit of a toss of a coin anyway as to who was going to make it, but a pretty impressive one, and a 33-shot shutout night on the high road for Jordan Lawday. When you consider the fixtures this upcoming weekend, boys, it's going to be interesting. Either way, we have cup finalists in North One and South One. Will return to league action this coming weekend. The Solent Devils, fresh off of their cup success, they welcome the Swindon Wildcats back to Gosport. 5:15 over at Sapphire. Romford, they get Streatham. And I'm not sure I'd want to be facing Streatham, just much like Bristol had to face Leeds the weekend after. Leeds had a 0-point weekend. Chelmsford versus Slough, massive title implications, of course, in terms of the league title. And you think that Slough are going to be it'll be a massive test of their mentals to come back against a side that is going to be absolutely flying, given what happened to them last weekend. That's at 5:30 at the Riverside. And then 7 o'clock down in Cardiff Bay for the Cardiff Fire and the Invicta Dynamos. Sunday then, big game in terms of that last playoff spot. Oxford versus Cardiff at the Ox Pens. Huge implications in terms of that 8th spot, given the amount of games that Cardiff have in hand. You think if that they managed to beat Oxford in Oxford, that could be a real rubber stamp of their playoff credentials. At the Link Centre, Swindon welcoming Victor, a double away weekend for the Dynamos this time. 6:45 at the Thunderdome for the MK Thunder and the Slough Jets. And then 6:45 on the high road. It's Streatham and Chelmsford again. Oh boy. I don't know what else to say to that one. That is going to be a game. Unfortunately, unable to attend it, but boy, that is scheduling par excellence on that one. So, issues with the cup with the scheduling. Of course, we know that only one half of the cup semi-final bits and pieces were able to be decided in North 2 this weekend because there is only one leg played in one of the ties. However, Telford and Billingham were greeted with the bizarre news on Friday that the Tigers' top goal scorer and joint point scorer in the national division, Vladimir Luka, would be joining the Telford Tigers too. Fair play to Billingham for managing to get Stevie Wallace to play in this game, but as you can see from the scoreline, the Vladimir Luka show in full effect at North 2 level as Luka ends up with a 5-goal night. Telford winning by 10 goals to 3 in a pretty penalty-heavy game that saw a fight between Luke Burden and Paul Davies right at the very end. That will see both of them suspended for a game as a result for fighting inside the last 5 minutes. We'll just pull up the bits and pieces here. Vladimir Luka's introduction to North 2 hockey, and he gets 6 points in his first game. Vladimir Luka with 5, 2 for Ollie Hunt, and goals for Liam Bartholomew, Taylor Stanton, and Carol Jett, who's still there. The goals for the Billingham Buccaneers, 2 from Stephen Wallace and 1 from Andrew Finn. Both netminders getting an outing for Billingham. Chris Outhwaite with not conceding 9 goals on 34 shots. Matt Byrne doing the business for the Tigers on the back end. He makes 24 saves. So with no first leg between the Aces and the Sting that we've got there. Actually, no, apologies, their first leg, we just don't have the result of it, which is pretty bonkers. We'll get that momentarily. Either way, Billingham win the second leg, but they don't win the second leg by enough. Ultimately, a 14 to 10 final aggregate scores. The Buccaneers do win the battle. Tigers win the war. 7-4 on Sunday night in the Forum. Not enough in this case, and ultimately the Tigers will take their place in the North 2 Cup final. Goals for the Buccaneers from Tom Fraser, Stephen Wallace, Sam Dowd, Tom Wakefield, Simon Geldart, and 2 from Anthony Price. For the Tigers in this one, only 1 assist on the night for Vladimir Luka. Positively lazy, I'm sure. Lucas Price with the goal, as well as Connor Keys, Ollie Hunt, and Dan Mitchell. All the netminders are getting some action there. And Chris Outhwaite with a pretty impressive performance. 56 saves on 60 shots in that one. We will just take a moment though. Has anyone got the result from the Altrincham Aces from their game this weekend? Let's have a quick squiz. Altrincham Aces. Because there's no game sheet gone to Joe Scuts, meaning that we don't. So looking at this, for the 19th, which of course will have been Sunday, sorry. Final score from that one, Altrincham 6, Sutton 10 is was the score in that one. Let's just have a quick check of this. I'm not losing me marbles. That was the cup semi-final. Yes, it was on Sunday. So yeah, the final score on that one, Altrincham 6, Sutton 10. Pretty goal-rich game there, all things considered. So we will see what happens in that one. Either way, upcoming fixtures this weekend in North 2. 5:30 at Hull. Wow, the Kingston Sharks are facing off at a regular time. That's different. What's happened with that one then? That all feels a bit strange. But yes, either way, Kingston take on Billingham at 5:30. 5:45 over in Altrincham. The Aces welcome the Bulldogs, and a 7:40 p.m. face-off at Sheffield. You can see the two names. A huge one. Can Sutton do it again? They won the game in Telford. They are the only undefeated side across the entirety of the NIHL. Will Telford play spoiler, or will the Sting keep marching on? It says CC. Not sure what that can't be a cup game surely between Sheffield and Billingham, but it's a 12:40 at Sheffield. 5:30 p.m. in Bradford as the Bulldogs and the Sharks take each other on, and 6 p.m. in Telford the Tigers welcome the D-side Ducks. And then South 2 to finish everything off, and of course with so few games we are running lovely and ahead of schedule, and so there we are at the end. South 2, and a tough night for the Haringey Huskies at home. They were hanging around with the Guildford Phoenix for a little bit, but ultimately the Phoenix, having come back from a pretty big hole the weekend before in the league game, they are comfortably past the Huskies in the first leg of their semi-final at Alexandra Palace from Saturday. Sol Studley's goal cancelled out by Martin Jazz, but then the Phoenix just went and started doing Guildford Phoenix things. Josh Sherrington, Ollie Dennis and Scott Bailey making it 4-1 before the 28th minute was complete. Jaden Bulkar getting the Huskies back within two inside the just a few moments later, but then a late goal from Josh Abbott making it 5-2, and a game that turned out to be something of a death knell for the Haringey Huskies. Peter France relieved of his duties as head coach, and Lee Mercer, the GM and owner of the Huskies, has stepped back in to coach the side. Skip down there. The other semi-final from the South 2 Cup saw Peterborough and Invicta go head-to-head. Peterborough have been pretty free-scoring this season, but the Huskies gave themselves a puncher's chance by the end of Saturday. A 6-3 win for the Phantoms in this one. As you can see there, though, it was 3-1 then 3-2. Peterborough just doing enough to kind of keep themselves at arm's length, with the Mustangs keeping themselves close enough where if they could get things going on home ice, they'd be able to potentially spark an upset. 4-point night for Nathan Pollard. He goes 1+3. Goals as well from Taylor Romeo, James Pentecost and Nathan Long, and 2 from Connor Pollard. Goals for the Mustangs coming from Aaron Ferris and 2 from Sam Oliver. And then at home, the Phoenix were able to close out the deal. They did get a little bit dicey. The Haringey Huskies were 2-0 up at the end of the first period, because this is what Guildford do, and it's a regular argument I have with Josh Sherrington, that they need to stop putting themselves into holes. Martin Jazz and Joe Willingham were the goals for the Huskies to start things off, but it took the Phoenix a bit of time, but they did turn things around eventually. Nick Minhinnock making it 2-2 on the night just before the end of the 45th minute. Josh Abbott making it 3-2. Stuart Appleby made it 3-3 on the night, but then late goals from Josh Abbott and a goal from Scott Bailey meant that the Phoenix would win 5-3 on the night, and 10-5 on aggregate to go back to the South 2 Cup final, the title which they are looking to defend. And then Invicta, well, they had a puncher's chance coming into it, and Peterborough blew them away. An 8-2 final score, 14-5 on aggregate, and the two big boys of South 2 this season will go head-to-head for the South 2 Cup. It will be the Peterborough Phantoms 2 and the Guildford Phoenix. Goals in this game, the Mustangs getting goals from Tom Mallet and Sam Oliver. Goals for the Phantoms 2 from James White, and goals from Nathan Pollard, Craig Wallace, Leo Markey, Brad Wright, Taylor Romeo and Connor Pollard. So congratulations to all of our various teams that have made their respective cup finals. That means we have Billingham versus Blackburn in North 1, Solent versus Chelmsford in South 1, South and North 2 still to be decided, but we do know that Telford will play one of Altrincham or Sutton, and then it will be Guildford and Peterborough in the South 2 final. Elsewhere, regular season game in the South, Chelmsford with a 5-2 win over Lee Valley. A big game towards the bottom there as teams still trying to vie for playoff spots, and the Warriors just on the cusp there, so a win will do them the world of good. Lewis Shelton, Harris McLennan and Taylor Chard making it 3-0 by the early point of the third period. Sebastian Downing getting the Lions on the board, which gave them a hint of a chance, but then goals from Eden Rolfe and Louis Holding making it 5-1. A late goal from Carlton Witter just taking a little bit of shine off the result. Warriors win it by 5-2. Not many games in South 2 next weekend though, just the 3. 2 on Saturday. The Bristol Pitbulls return to action. They take on a hurting Haringey Huskies, who will be looking to get themselves back to winning ways, as they still very much have a chance at the South 2 title mathematically. In Victor, they've got Peterborough again. That's, again, scheduling par excellence on that front. One game on Sunday across the entirety of South 2, and that will be in Gosport. The Solent Junior Devils return to action. It's a double game weekend for the Invicta Mustangs, who will travel down from Kent looking to get something out of the weekend. End of the second, Guildford 1, Belfast 4. Jordan Kawaguchi and Gabe Bass with goals there for the Flames. Ben, good evening. Volio, good to see you, my good man. The Challenge Cup playing game, Nottingham 3, Glasgow 1. That goal coming, Panthers' third goal coming from Mitch Fossier. Very good player. When I commentated on the Flames-Panthers game when I saw them, I liked Fossier a lot. Looks a very poor crowd in Nottingham tonight. Only looks a third full. I mean, this is the downside of this bizarre cup format that the Elite League choose. Unfortunately, Jamie. I mean, it is what it is. The teams will sign up to it. They know what the damage is, and yeah, ultimately, a cup semi-final will always draw more than a potential cup play-in, as it were. So yeah, such is the way of such things. You can't win them all, but if the Panthers make the final, you can be pretty certain those Panthers fans will turn up in big numbers. Either way, and due to the nature of the fact there just wasn't as many games on this weekend, we have covered every single game from across the entirety of the NIHL. That means the door is open. Questions, comments, thoughts, feelings, anything anybody wants to chuck out. Hockey from across the world. We're open to talking about anything now. We can just have a chat for a bit and just see how we feel. What's going on? What hockey do we want to talk about? NHL, WNIHL, anything from anywhere at this point. We've covered everything from the NIHL, so anything people want to talk about, any big comments, any bits of grand ideas that you like the sound of, any that you thought were completely bonkers and should never be mentioned ever again. That's the good bit at the end here. We've covered all the games, so we can now just chat about whatever we want to. Not immediately loads and loads of extra news whilst we've been on the air, which is both good and bad. Yeah, pretty crazy sort of announcement from Telford, of course, just before the weekend, which I'll just quickly pull up just so we can go through the bits and pieces and go through it again. As we saw from that first leg between the Tigers 2 and the Buccaneers, Vladimir Luka in North 2 is a Mickey take. Like, what is going on there? Where you drop your team's top goal scorer and top point scorer, and you get him to drop 2 divisions to go play for your North 2 side. I understand why as well. Henderson, Thompson, Skoleski, they're younger, they're fitter, the potential for them to be more impactful is higher. Luke has been getting, unfortunately for him, a little bit slower, but clearly still wants to play. From my understanding, he's pretty well set up in Telford. His kid is in school, and ultimately, if he wants to keep playing, Telford have got that option where you can stay around the club, stay in the town, play for the team, and do some damage in North too. That Tigers side competes well at that level, and we've had guys come on and explain to us why they are where they are. So that is, it's a pretty impressive result, all things considered. Telford now, especially for the fact they've got that huge game with Sutton coming up this weekend as well. What impact will Vlad Luka have on that one? The other bits out of that that announcement from the Tigers, of course, Matty Bloor, who's been the backup for the majority of the season, moving on a two-way to the Sheffield Shimatars. Josh Mims, the under-18s netminder for Telford, was backing them up on Saturday down in Slough. The Shimatars are not mathematically out of things in North 1, but what this will allow Matty Bloor a chance to do is just to kind of play again. Former Nottingham Lions netminder was pretty impressive, but he's been stuck behind Brad Day and really hasn't been given the opportunity to play an awful lot, which is understandable, but also a shame, really, because if you've got a netminder like Brad Day coming into Saturday evening had played over 2,000 minutes. Did he need to play all of those 2,000 minutes? And could he have been a bit fitter and a bit fresher for some of those bigger games heading into the end of the season? Let's see how that one kind of goes. Hello to Hawks TV who've joined us. I can see there. Good evening to all of them. The other bits and pieces from that Telford announcement, of course, David Thompson being back, which is really, really good. He broke a finger back at the back end of November playing against Leeds, so he was out for the better part of 2 months. Came back, scored a goal, pretty impactful. Telford didn't play a particularly... It wasn't like a world-changing game, style of game on Saturday. It's pretty straightforward road hockey, but very effective. Very good puck movement as well, actually, I should say, from the Tigers. They did really well on that one. The other bit of news as well, and we send our best wishes out to Jake Price. He's undergone knee surgery, going to be out for 9 to 12 months as a result. Telford have had a horror year for injuries at the best of times. So losing a guy for the better part of a year because of a knee problem is really, really bad. And obviously as well, it's just not nice. It's just hard to exist when you can't walk properly. So sending all of our best to Jake Price and wishing him a speedy recovery. Just having a look in the chat. Colin McDavid getting banned from the Caps game last night was nice. It certainly was nice for the Caps because they won. I get why McDavid did what he did. Penalty should have been called on the man before him, but you can't cross-check a man in the face. I can't remember who it was sort of saying, we need to protect the superstars. Well, the superstars need to not make dumb decisions like cross-checking a dude in the head. That would be useful. Andrew has got the WNHL results, some stuff from South 2A. A win for the Slough Sirens against the Streatham Storms. South 2 side, Esther Haskin and Perry Edmonston with goals for the Sirens. Elsewhere as well in the South 2A Cup. A bit of a strange one on this one, and Andrew was actually there. The Cambridge Kodiaks 4-0 up against Peterborough Phantoms 2 by the end of the first period, and the Phantoms forfeit and walk out, meaning it's a default 5-0 win for the Kodiaks. Andrew, I don't know whether you've had an explanation as to what's happened there. We'd love to stick it. If you could stick it in the chat, that'd be impressive. As Andrew's mentioned, though, he can say there, not tons and tons of action in the WNHL due to the GB under-18s taking so many of the players. Fixtures this Saturday, South 2A. We'll see Slough versus Cambridge at 7 p.m. face-off at the Hangar. In 2B, Coventry Phoenix versus the Guildford Huskies and Haringey Greyhounds versus the Invicta Dynamics. 1 North on Saturday, we'll see the Solway Sharks ladies welcome the Nottingham Vipers at 3 p.m. And 2 North on Sunday, the Widnes Wild will welcome the Telford Wrecking Raiders. Tons and tons of hockey wherever you want to find it this weekend. And where am I going? To none of it, because I'm going to have that family weekend instead. And actually, in some ways, it's been a pretty intense couple of months when it comes down to it. Like, I've done a lot of commentary and doing other bits and pieces. Like I said, I've recorded this Hockey Stories piece to fill the gap, so it's not just like there's a large chunk without anything on the website. And I'm really pleased about it because it was a topic I'd wanted to do for a while, and I was able to just kind of match up times with my with the interviewee for it. So we'll tell you a bit more about it in the coming days, but I think it's a topic that I personally found interesting. Like I said, I didn't know an awful lot about it, and I felt like I didn't know. So I figured the best thing to do was to get an expert, sit them down and ask all the questions. And it's not too long as well. It's only about 45 minutes of a video of an interview to listen to. So hopefully people will enjoy that too. Dave, Romford fan, good to see you. I'd be super annoyed if the Kodiaks miss out on anything due to goal difference. I mean, it is what it is on that front, because if a team forfeits, the rule is there, and you're all playing to the rules. But yeah, unsure why Peterborough chose not to go on past the 20-minute mark. From what I understand, it was quite a physical game, but physical does not necessarily mean you should be walking off after 20 minutes. So I'm really interested to see what happens there. Phantoms Women's social media said the decision was made to abandon tonight's game against Cambridge for the safety of our players. Which was there a problem? Which beggars an amount of questions, because was it that physical a game? Was the rink not safe? What was going on there? We'll have a quick look as we're talking, and see if we can find anything on people on socials. Peterborough Phantoms women. Let's have a quick squiz and see if we can see anything there. There does not appear to be any explanation at all on the People Phantom social media page. It's Phantoms players that were picking up pens. Yeah, strange that one. It'd be interesting to see. You'd venture as well, we should really see some sort of announcement from England Ice Hockey about that. Whether we will or not is make your own jokes. Rink fine, no injuries I saw or heard. Yeah, strange then, isn't it? I mean, it's definitely not one I've heard. Only other time I've seen that was Widnes versus Dragons a few years ago. Mackenzie was captain and took the teams off the ice for due to fear of safety for his players. I mean, that is for Scott Mackenzie to do that as well is very, very unusual. That will have been due to I can imagine why Scott will have done that. Should say as well, before anybody sort of I'll say this. Scott Mackenzie is genuinely one of the nicest people I've met in British hockey. On Saturday, in the midst of getting himself ready and sort of, walking off the ice after the warm-up, saw it was me, stopped me, shook my hand. It wasn't me going up to him as well. And Scott Mackenzie is one of those players who I don't necessarily think he is either the most technologically advanced or listens to lots of bits and pieces. But what he realises is that there's so much, that people put stuff in, that he realises that actually, like, being polite is the best thing you can be. And he is genuinely such a smart hockey player as well. I think that's the thing about it. I actually really enjoy watching Scott Mackenzie because he's like really, really talented. He just happens to be really, really nice into the bargain as well. I think it's his 21st senior season, which is crackers. And the fact he's still that good having played for that long, like, fair play. Game was out of hand. Refs lost control. D-side player left the ice to punch a wild player, and the refs lost the game. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, that sounds. I can see why somebody would have pulled their team off the ice for that one. Four fans penalties, none to Kodiaks. Two of them were bench misconducts at 18, 15, 20. Long discussion between the officials and fans bench at the end of the first. Commentary playoff weekend ticket news, Anthony. I have nothing at all. I have nothing on that front at all. What I will say, Steel City Showdown. I will say this. I unfortunately cannot attend the Steel City Showdown. Family bits and pieces will keep me away. I will be in Coventry. And when it comes to the Steel City Showdown, and I'll say this because it's being said anywhere as well, there will be, on the What's Current stream, 2 weekend tickets to give away to the Steel City Showdown. The England Ice Hockey have said that when the time comes, I can give away a couple of tickets to the Steel City Showdown. Like I say, I cannot attend. Sorry about that. It is what it is on that front. And ultimately, as much as I love all of you guys, my family come before the absolute lot of you, so I cannot attend on that front. But doesn't mean you can't attend. And there will be 2 tickets that I have to give away. The plan is it is going to be a raffle. I will be doing a raffle for them. It's not just going to be given away. There will be a raffle. There will be a small cost, and all of the money will be going to Parkinson's UK. That is my intention of what I will do. Cards subject to change, terms and conditions apply. But my plan is to basically, is that England Ice Hockey have said that I can have a couple of tickets to give away. I'll be raffling them off for Parkinson's UK. I say at the end pretty much of every stream, but I'll let you know about bits and pieces here because I'll explain. Because for those of you who don't know, my dad is where are we? It's 2025. So my dad is turning 66. He'll be 66 in April. My dad was diagnosed with Parkinson's at the age of 54. If you're thinking that's early, you're right. Most people do not get diagnosed with Parkinson's in their 50s. My dad has had Parkinson's now for the better part of 12 years, meaning that my dad has lost a large chunk of the dexterity, I think is probably the right word, in his left hand side. So for example, his right hand, and he's starting to lose bits and pieces in his right. So my dad can kind of move his fingers like this on his right hand, and on his left hand it's like that. I fortunately still have full movement in my fingers, but my dad has essentially lost most of the bits and pieces down his left hand side. Everything still, he still moves, and he still is mobile and can do bits and pieces. Unfortunately, the big thrower of the last 12 months is Parkinson's dementia. Now, Parkinson's dementia is like a form, it's dementia. It's a form of Alzheimer's. But Parkinson's dementia is quite different. Parkinson's dementia is interesting in the sense that you will kind of remember people and places, and you remember your past. I know one of the things people get quite het up on with dementia and Alzheimer's is people kind of forgetting who they are and forgetting names and faces. My dad remembers everyone and knows who everybody is. What he's lost is his complete sense of time in the moment. He'll start sentences and not be able to finish them. He'll make a cup of tea, and by the time he's got across the room to sit down and drink that cup of tea, he'll have forgotten who's made the cup of tea. That's what Parkinson's dementia is. So aside from the fact his body and his muscles are slowly kind of sort of seizing up, his brain is now starting to seize up on him as well. That's why I'll be raffling off my tickets for the Steel City Showdown to raise some money for Parkinson's UK, because ultimately, statistically, at least 4 or 5 of us within doing the show and the chat will be affected by Parkinson's in some way. It's a horrible disease, and ultimately if we can get money towards researching a cure, that'd be massively appreciated. So when the time comes, that's what we're going to be doing. I can see people poking about the Steel City Showdown in the chat. Nottingham and Blackburn going at each other. Who'd have thought it? All things considered. It should be a lot of fun. And if you can go to Sheffield, I'll say this. If you can go to Sheffield, I really, really recommend you do. One of the things that's been a bit of a kicker, less so in the north, but more so in the south, playoff weekends have never sold as well as they could have done in the past, because the clubs have kind of not gotten involved in it. They've not gotten into that kind of elite league, national division, old EPL spirit of let's all have a big blowout together. If you can get to Sheffield, go to Sheffield. And I'm not saying this because EIH are giving me tickets to give away to you. I'm not saying it because of anything like that. You should go, because it's going to be a great hockey spectacle. Think of it this way, right? Even if you don't win tickets, say you win tickets, you spend however much I can put the tickets up for. Say it's like £2 a ticket, and you for £2 get to go. That'd be great. Adult early bird ticket is like £56. £56 to watch 6 games, all with meaning. You will get to see the North 1, North 2, South 1, South 2 playoff finals. That's your Saturday. Playoff winners for the 4 divisions outside of the national in the NIHL. And then on Sunday, you get 2 national finals for less than £60 if you buy the early bird. People will say to me, Anthony, the hockey in Div 1's nowhere near as good as the elite. Yeah, spoiler alert, the hockey in Britain's not as good as the hockey in the NHL. You get games of importance, and you will get guys going to the wall, because there is literally no tomorrow for most of them. The idea that this is something that like I say, I'm not going not because I don't want to, but because I can't. That's life, right? If you've got the opportunity to go. I'm promising you, it will be a lot of fun. The hockey is going to be high quality, high drama, and there is nothing better than hockey with something on the line. It's going to be awesome. If you get the opportunity to go, definitely go. And if you can't, and like I say, I can't be in Sheffield, but I will see you in Coventry. You can bet your bottom dollar about that one. Graham is still hungover from last year. This would explain a lot about the podcast. Sorry, Graham, you walked into that one. My apologies. Just having a check of other bits and pieces. Do we have any other news? Not that I can see. No, nothing else there. What can you see? MK announcing that as part of Pride, they're going to have have the return of local drag queen Sandy Flaps. That's going to be a lot of fun at MK on Saturday. I know MK have generally done really, really well with Pride Night. That should be a lot of fun if you're in for such things. Saturday evening, I'll be recovering from what I assume will be a glorious Bournemouth victory over Nottingham Forest. Really odd, like a lot of the sort of the Nottingham, a lot of Peterborough guys, a lot of Nottingham Forest fans at Peterborough. So you can bet I'll be tweeting Tom Norton if we win on that front. Last call, questions, comments, thoughts, feelings, anything you want to chuck in before the end of the show, because we'll be heading off in a couple of minutes. Oh, there we go. Yes, it's water, not Heineken Zero this time. Go and watch any level of hockey. You can get a boring game in the NHL in America, but get a really close WNHL or NHL 2 game. You can sometimes see some good young players come through. Exactly. It's all about tomorrow. Who remembers the 2019 NHL 1 National Finals weekend at Coventry with Widnes versus Slough in the Sunday 12 o'clock game? Who remembers the first time that they saw Sean Norris and Sam Talbot absolutely decimate Widnes? Sorry, Widnes. But yeah, it was basically a two-man show that Sunday. I think it was 4 goals for Norris, and Talbot had assists on all of them. Pretty crazy. That was a pretty crazy day. Actually, that was a pretty crazy day, all things considered, the 2019 final day, because you got Slough batter Widnes, and then you got the Hull Pirates Peterborough Phantoms final, where Peterborough were kind of forced to play Hull Pirates hockey, which was, we can't defend, but we can score. Goal, 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 goal. And Callum Buglas going coast to coast and backhanding it past the netminder, and that was a crazy, crazy weekend. Which made up for the fact in 2018, Basingstoke just killed everybody, which was good fun. Aaron Connolly going Super Saiyan in the semi-final and then battering Telford. I'm sorry, but the Solway Stretton games have been enough over the last few years. Those were, to be fair, whilst Stretton couldn't get the job done against Solway in full flight in their North 1 days, watching that was pretty impressive. And like that final game for like Gordon Horn and Richie Bentham and stuff, that was pretty awesome. Seeing Solway win the Grand Slam, that was pretty cool. Single seats only left for MK on Saturday, about 75 standing tickets. Funnily enough, my friend's seeing Sandy Flapp at the Driver Show tonight as well. Will hopefully be a fun night on Saturday. Sure it will be. For all the jokes we can make about MK, they packed that building out. How many blocks should MK have for Coventry? 2. They should have 2. You're in the National Division as an 11-team league. They should have 2 max. That's it. It's a really easy answer to that question. 2. What I want to see is more Bristol fans this year. I want to see more Bristol fans. I realise them making it is starting to make the playoffs. It's starting to look dicey, and it will be quite tough for Solway fans to come out. I'm pretty certain if Solway make it, we'll see a good batch, because when Solway have made it to Coventry, they've generally gotten a good few people down. I'm pretty certain if Solway make it, Owen Blackstock will just be like carting his new baby around. It'll be a whale of a time. John Strange, can you imagine what ridiculous suit John Strange will make if Solway make Coventry? Oh, the tartan. The Solway Sharks tartan. We're going to have a whale of a time with that. Last call. This is it though, folks. Like I say, we're going to finish up momentarily. Yeah, so it should be tons of fun. Like I say, looking forward to getting back to Coventry. Like I say, it's not just about like the hockey bits and pieces. I get to see a lot of friends as well, and I get to stay with friends, which is what I generally do. So it should be a lot of fun. And of course, the downside is that it's over Easter, which is quite frustrating as somebody who celebrates Easter. It would be nice if it wasn't on Easter weekend, but it does work out for the fact that Friday is a bank holiday and Monday is a bank holiday. So Monday is going to be carnage. Even though we sell 2 blocks out in under 5 minutes, Anthony, it's supply and demand. Yep, and there are 11 teams to demand, and MK are no more important than anybody else. Can we get a prediction for the Hawks Stars League Cup final? No, I'm not falling into that trap. Absolutely not. That one is actually too close to call for me. I think what I will say is I think it depends. Who's got the second leg? because I think that would probably be a big part in my prediction. Guildford for 2, second goal for the Flames from Brett Ferguson, fair play. If it moved, would you rather Nottingham or Sheffield Utilita? If it moved, I'd rather Nottingham because Nottingham's more central. Sheffield's too far. I get why Sheffield gets used. I get why it would be used. And the House of Steel is what it is. It's like a massive, massive rink. But Nottingham is more central. Hawks win. I enjoy Billingham tears. You see, I would in my heart of hearts, I would prefer Billingham to win because I do like Billingham. New arena in Manchester. That's a fair point, Jamie. If we do get a new arena in Manchester, that could be a good place for it. But yeah, nothing against Blackburn. I don't have anything against them in any direction. I just do like Billingham. I've had a fair few interactions with Billingham, with the players and over time as well. So I will always kind of lean that way. I think it kind of depends who has the second leg, because there is a difference between. So, for example, if the first leg is in Blackburn and Billingham come out a goal down, you'd back Billingham to win at home. If Billingham are like a goal up going into Blackburn, that's a much different prospect. That's a very, very different prospect, all things considered. So, yeah, you can't make a prediction of the best times without the full data set on that front. For me, like I say, Blackburn are a team that I don't like or I don't dislike. I do quite like Billingham, because I've known Craig for a while and I've known Carroll for a while. So I don't know Jono as well, but Jono's cool too. Here's the thing I didn't realise today as well, that BTC that sponsor Billingham is the town council. How does that work? Of course, Planet Ice wouldn't have wanted to go to Nottingham or Sheffield where they can't gouge customers with that added fee. No, you get Ticketmaster fees instead, Dave. So don't worry, you just get gouged by somebody else. Don't you fret. Don't do fees. Put the price on the ticket. That's what you should do with fees. It's the easiest thing to do. Just add it in. Don't tell me it's £60 plus X amount of fees. Tell me it's 65 and just tell me it's all included. Much easier. Much more sensible as well. Just quick double check for any news. Because I think, like I say, we'll be ending momentarily. Nothing else I can see on that front. 4-1 Panthers. Matt Alfaro, not Alvaro. Guildford have Alvaro. Panthers have Alfaro. I was really annoyed actually because Alfaro was injured for the Guildford Nottingham game I did, and I was so prepared for the ridiculousness of it. Exactly. Told you, Dave. Either way, looking at the time, I think we are at that point. We will call it there. Bannersonthewall.wordpress.com, your number one source for all things related to the NIHL. Join me on my weird journey through British hockey, through the Banners on the Road series. Of course, you've got last weekend's game between the Berkshire Bees and the Telford Tigers to look at, as well as the rest of the season, including the 1000th piece on Banners on the Wall. Grand ideas. Change British hockey, because if you get what you always got, you'll get what you've got what you always get. On that front. So yeah, some ideas were in there for that one. You've also got our Hockey Story series, long form piece of content, some written, some audio visual, from the 19th century to the present day, behind the Iron Curtain, interwar and beyond. New Hockey Stories piece coming on Tuesday night. You've got the back catalogue of the LBOTW podcast, our free to download tabletop game Dice Hockey, which if you download, like I say, if you download that and you enjoy it, chuck some money towards Parkinson's UK. And of course, we've got that raffle coming before too long as well. That'll be pretty awesome. But like I say, tons of bits and pieces that you can check out over at bannersonthewall.wordpress.com. Facebook.com/bannersonthewall. If you like to get your bits and pieces through your Facebook feed, go there, like the page. You can get all the stuff that goes on the website. Will come through there, as well as links to the streams. X, Twitter, whatever we're calling it. Firstly, Elon Musk, don't do Nazi salutes, but Twitter's also the most looked at social media platform in the world. So please do go over there at BannersOTW. Keep up with my rolling hockey commentary, as it were, about British and world hockey. You can do that. Blue Sky, bannersonthewall.bsky.social. You can catch us there. Everything's over on Linktree as well. All of the links are in one place on Linktree. linktr.ee/bannersonthewall. as well as our virtual busking hat, buymeacoffee.com/BOTW. Obviously, we're never going behind a paywall, and please, if you can't afford to give money, please don't. But if you do like what you see and you want to contribute and you want to help keep the lights on and wheels turning around, you can do that over at buymeacoffee.com/BOTW. And if you don't have the money or you're not inclined to give money, please just like hit a retweet or a share or bits and pieces like that. Algorithms are what they are, and the more people who do those bits and pieces, the more stuff gets seen. It's pretty awesome if we have more people keeping eyes on what's going on in the NIHL. But the joy, you're on YouTube. Go down there into the description. All of the links are down there for all of our bits and pieces. And of course, all the essential YouTube gubbins. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Let's see if we can get to 500 subscribers by the end of the season. Like the video, share the video, do all those good bits and pieces so we can kind of come up in people's feeds. That'd be awesome. Keep that YouTube algorithm hamster fat, happy, and fed. I think as well, the only other thing to say, of course, like I say, it's YouTube. That's the joy. We are here Wednesday nights throughout the British hockey season, the first, best, and only live show that covers all things related to every division of the NIHL. That is here on Wednesday, 8 PM, the BOTW What's Current Stream. Awesome. We should get a guest on the stream again at some point. It's been a lot of me. Let's get some other guests on as well to talk through bits and pieces. But let's work that bit out. There's definitely tech we can use for that. But yeah, another weekend done. The cup semi-finals for the moment, sort of. Cheers, Sutton and Altrincham. We'll put to one side for now because there's cup finals to be decided, and we know, he says very quickly, pulling up the details, that the South 1 cup final between the Solent Devils and the Chelmsford Chieftains is going to take place in February. I'm just going to pull up the details as we're talking about it now. That it will be Saturday the 22nd of February, 5 PM at Gosport. We'll see the home leg for the Solent Devils. The return leg will be Sunday the 23rd of February, 6 PM at the Riverside in Chelmsford for the South 1 Cup final. So plenty of exciting things, and that's what I mean. Hockey's getting exciting. Trophies. We're a month away from a trophy from the South 1 Cup National Division Cup final. It's all getting exciting, isn't it? That's what's so awesome about hockey. And like I say, I have a weekend away from it this weekend, which is necessary because my family are what they are. My family are more important than all of this. I love hockey. I love them more. And the hope is that I will come back the next week ready to go hit the ground running because it is eyes down for the business end of the season. Be happy. And if you can't be happy wherever you are, then wherever you are, please do your very best to be safe. As my friend Scotty Watts would say, take care of yourself and somebody else. For bannersonthewall.wordpress.com, this is Anthony Russell saying stay safe. And so long until next time. Have a great weekend, everybody. I'll definitely be keeping tabs wherever I am. Enjoy your hockey where you find it. We will see you back here next Wednesday night for the BOTW What's Current Stream.